All right, everyone. Happy Friday before the Arkansas game. We have your team news for you. Joe is handling some personal business. Justin is about to head to Arkansas. So you're here with me, Texas Homer. And of course, we are with Eric Nalin, Chief Lead Publisher, Master of Inside Texas. What's the title?
None of those, that's for sure. I think managing partner is what's on the documents, but I don't know, man. It's just a team effort.
Good stuff. All right. Well, we're going to talk, of course, the usual team news and all that kind of stuff. But before, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us out a lot. And let's get right into it, man. So we had a quote unquote good week of practice.
Yeah.
What does that mean practically? And then also let's kind of talk about the idea of a good week of practice. It doesn't always guarantee results, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a double-edged sword. And Sark is pretty honest and candid with the media. They typically always have a good practice or a good week of practice. Sometimes there are a day it might be interspersed that didn't go nearly as well as they would have liked. There's been times that they dragged ass a little bit more than Sark was hoping for, but for the most part, the weeks are good. I know fans don't like hearing that because then if they don't play well, how could they possibly have had a good week of practice? But that happens all the time. The biggest example I ever have of a bad week of practice having the opposite result was after they got waxed by TCU 50-7, I think it was. The very next week, they came back and beat OU, which nobody was predicting. I was not predicting it. I was in Austin that week with people that are tied to the staff, and they said, "Man, it's been a crappy week of practice. They're going to get blasted by OU," and then they showed up and won. So that's why we watch sports. They're very unpredictable. But yeah, what the source was saying was that you can have a good week of practice, and then the first quarter doesn't go your way. One missed block or one missed tackle can change the complexion of the game earlier. He referenced that fumble that Ewers had was kind of a freakish play against Georgia, or the two picks came on tips against Vanderbilt, and that now all of a sudden they're not blowing out Vanderbilt like they should. But he did say they had a really good week of practice, and he said that after I said I had a little bit of trepidation about this game. I had some flashbacks to 2021, where early in that week I felt Texas was going to win, and then I got a phone call that Saturday morning, and that just totally waylaid my confidence, and I should have switched my prediction and didn't. And obviously Texas didn't really show up for that game. So I have that in the back of my mind, and then at the same time, Arkansas is a dangerous team. They have a balanced offense. They got a dual threat quarterback. And then the defense is kind of wonky. They could throw a lot of different looks at you, which means Sark and Ewers are going to have to solve it. So I was voicing a little bit of concern, and he laughed at me. He's like, "Look, they had a really, really good week of practice." When I predicted my score, he said, "I don't think they're going to score that much, but we'll see." So he was very confident. And again, good week of practice. He said Tuesday and Wednesday in particular were really good for offense and defense. Offense was good the whole week, particularly on Thursday where the wide receivers were making a lot of plays. And he said the number one way you could tell whether or not the offense had a good week is whether or not Steve Sarkisian is happy. And she said Steve Sarkisian was a happy man throughout the entire week.
And what is a good week? Is a good week just they're executing? A good week is schematic elements, like they've introduced a lot of, like, what is a good week?
Good week of practice is confidence in the game plan, executing the game plan, urgency, moving very fast, not a lot of assignment errors. The ball's not landing on the ground. The defense is communicating well, showing very good pursuit. All those elements, all the things that you want to see that go into a very good game, show up in a good week of practice.
Good stuff. All right, now we're in November, which is already crunch time, but we're in actual crunch time. We can't take a loss, and we're not making the SEC championship. And Sark's on record saying that's the first goal, right? Get to the SEC championship. Right. So we got to win out. What's the team mindset right now? What's team morale? Last year, man, when we were kind of in that sketchy zone of not making the playoffs and all that kind of stuff, we responded well. So what's the team like right now?
Yeah, I think they responded very well last week with the Florida game. Obviously Florida aided them with injuries and also a lot of assignment busts, but they played well. The mindset is that they have to win. They don't want to leave their fate into the playoff committee. It's not just about making the SEC championship game. At this point, it's about making the playoffs because, there's going to be a lot of teams grouped together. And then, if the playoff committee takes a harder look at strength of schedule, Texas could be in trouble just because a lot of the teams that they faced have had down years. So they don't want to leave it in anybody else's hand. They feel like they have to win out. At the same time, they can't look ahead either. They have to take each game like it's the SEC championship game, and they're doing that. It's a confident bunch. I would say it's a very confident bunch, but not an overly confident bunch. They're hungry. They're still very hungry. They've got a lot to prove. They want to win the SEC. To win the SEC, they've got to get to the game first, and to do that, they have to win the rest of their games because one more game and they're going to suffer. They're not going to get in due to all the tie breaks.
Is there any institutional memory of Arkansas? We would probably have like a handful of players who are in that game, but is Sark? Do you know if Sark's stressing that? Hey, it's a revenge game. Or are they trying to take a different psychological approach?
Not really a revenge game, but there's 11 guys on the team that were there in 2021. 9 of the guys are starters. The other 2 play quite a bit. So there's a lot of leadership in that group. But I think they want to do that just because they did get embarrassed in 2021. But at the same time, they just get the win, get out of there, then get another one against Kentucky, and then get ready for a crazy week ahead of A&M. But first things first, they got to beat Arkansas. But again, it's a confident bunch, but at the same time, they have a lot of respect. Arkansas has a lot of talent on offense, and then again, there's some talent on defense, good defensive line for sure. But then they've got to be prepared for the schematics. They know it's a challenge, but again, when I said I was concerned, I liked that I got laughed at.
Yeah, that is more comforting. Yeah, it's not great for the ego, but it feels good to know that you're winning.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah,
help me sleep better.
Yeah, and when they also, I prefer them not to have 2 weeks. They've been able to plot on us with that bye week, so that's also going to be interesting.
Yeah, they had the bye week, and then we'll talk about it again later on another show. They had the bye week, and also a lot of teams in college football they have pride and they bounce back. Look at what happened with Nebraska earlier in the year. They got absolutely thumped by Indiana 51-6 or 56-7, something like that. And then the very next week, they almost knocked off Ohio State. So, Arkansas is going to give it the old college try for sure.
Absolutely. Before we keep going, guys, let's hear a word from Andre the Lawyer.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Thank you, LC. All right, good teams get better as the year goes on. So which players right now are sources telling you are kind of hitting their stride? We've seen some of it on the field, but I guess some of it on the practice field as well.
Yeah, well, I will say one that wasn't mentioned, it's just popped in my mind, is Hayden Conner, and I should definitely show him some love because I was skeptical of him at times, especially in the run game. He's always been a good pass blocker, and he's been a pretty good run blocker when he's on the move, but he's been a lot better than I anticipated. He's having a pretty good year. But the one that was mentioned was the same one I mentioned to the board when I got asked in the Q&A was Trey Moore. Trey Moore was playing pretty decent, pretty good the whole year. But a lot of fans were on him because he wasn't making plays. He started making plays. Well, now he's not playing well. He's playing good. He's playing, even better. I think this is going to be a big week. Sources mentioned that this was a big week for him because, they do like to run the quarterback, but at the same time, they'll drop him back and let it throw it deep too. So he should have a very active game. We've seen him play with a lot of discipline, but also some athleticism. He got around the corner last week. It didn't count as a sack. But the source says, I don't care. I'm counting that as a sack. And once you get one, you tend to get more. So look for more of Trey Moore. And then also Manny Muhammad. Source felt like Muhammad probably wasn't getting as much appreciation as he should because Jahdae Barron's been getting a lot of the headlines. But he had a really good week. He's had a couple of really good weeks, actually. And he liked that Manny was showing up in the run game as a run defender. So those two were the guys that mentioned. He didn't mention Hayden Conner, but I feel like I should mention Hayden just because, we got to give love to the guys, especially when we've been a little bit hard on them. I've always loved Hayden. I've known Hayden since he was in 9th grade. I know he's always had the ability. Smart guy, great guy. He's starting to play like a seasoned veteran.
Yeah, and then there's one player you can never miss on the field because they're huge, Kobe Black. So what's kind of the latest on Kobe? We're seeing him get a lot more reps too. Yeah,
Kobe's one of 3 guys, one of the younger guys that we're seeing play a lot more, and I think we're going to see them play, probably through the rest of the season. Kobe's going to get a lot of work this week as well. We saw him versus Florida. We saw him versus Vandy when under live bullets. The games, that game was not in hand. We saw him with Florida, of course. They had that one kind of put to bed, but we're going to see him play this week. They've got some schematic things lined up for the Hogs. Kobe, very bright future. Expect to see him play, especially, it depends on the looks right now. We'll probably see a little bit less of him against A&M. But, I think we'll see a lot. I know we'll see a lot of them tomorrow.
Yeah, he's always fun, man. He just pops right off the tape, man. He's huge.
Yeah, he's giant. He's a giant corner. He looks like a future linebacker. kind of like Jelani McDonald's huge at safety. These guys have a lot of length and a lot of size. Texas is lucky that they can find these guys.
Yeah, and the young guys are getting a lot more reps. We, of course, Gibson was able to come out and play versus Florida. That was fun. And then also, man, you've been predicting Ty Anthony Smith's future ability, and he was able to get that interception versus Florida. So what's kind of the latest on those two?
Yeah, Jarek had a bit of a coming out that he needed. Got his most carries of the year, 100 yards. They needed that for sure. He's a downhill runner. Also, good outside runner. He's just looking to get downhill the second he can. He's definitely not looking for the sidelines. Got to protect the ball, but he could be the missing element they need going into November and hopefully into the playoffs, into the SEC championship game. They need that element to create more of a run-pass balance. I'll be curious to see how much work he gets. I expect to see him quite a bit. But, Jaden Blue looked like he might be turning the corner. Jaden said he's the healthiest he's been all season. So we might see more of him. And then you can't forget Trey Wisner. I think, I tend to think they're going to mix Jaden Blue in the run and pass game. Trey Wisner more as a receiver, and then Jarek Gibson more as a running back, more of the, down-to-down inside runner. But Jarek Gibson, expect to see more of him. And then, Ty Anthony, I think he also had 4 tackles in addition to that interception. The source said, hey, got his feet wet, time to play him a little bit more. Now they still got David Benda. Maurice Blackwell's a little bit dinged up, though, too, as well. So that could help Ty Anthony's cause to get on the field. Very bright future. If you see him run around, he's still kind of a longer, skinny linebacker. He's going to look a lot different next year. But you can see that the baseline ability is there. I liked how deep he got in that drop. Another tip ball from Alfred Collins. Got to show him some love on that. But he was deep in his drop, made the play. And you can tell how popular he is in the locker room because the sideline went crazy. And then, of course, when he got love in the in film room, the team went crazy again. You always like to hear about those guys. There's a lot of players that the team roots for that are more quiet. Fans don't know as much about, like a guy like Juan Davis. They love it anytime Juan Davis gets the ball in his hands. There's just some team favorites, and Ty Anthony's already become one of those.
Good stuff. The culture is healing, man, over those years. That's always nice. And then, of course, off season, the number one topic was helmet comms because we didn't have much to talk about. So we had all these like, how is it going to change the game? Are they still going to sign in and all that kind of stuff? But what has it actually achieved? How has it made offenses better, defenses better? What has been able to talk directly to players done for Texas?
The example I was given on offense was the Michigan game where, the Michigan wanted to rotate their defensive tackles, quite a bit, sort of like how Texas does or has done more of in the past. And the number one way to do that is to go to keep them from doing that is to go fast. So, while they're getting the call into Quinn, he's getting them lined up. He's not having to look over to the sidelines, getting signals and all that. He's barking orders to the line while he's getting the play and then actually delivering the play. So instead of, doing it sort of in a step by step, they're able to do it all at once and work a lot more quickly and a lot more efficiently. So that was said to be a big boon there. On defense, it's just sort of, calming Anthony Hill down. It's a lot to take in your first year Mike linebacker replacing Jalen Ford, a seasoned veteran. So he's able to sort of just he's calling the lines. He doesn't really have to mess with the secondary, so that helps him out quite a bit. But it's able to settle him down in the bigger environments, get him lined up. And Storch said, he has had very few issues with, not getting the call on time or not getting the right line calls for the D line. So basically, it's just settled him down. A lot less mistakes than you normally see with a young Mike linebacker.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. I mean, it makes total sense, but I didn't even realize Anthony was calling the line there. Yeah, it makes sense. Green dot. All right, that was fun stuff. I think the Arkansas game will be a fun game. Like you said, Arkansas is better than we think, and if they don't have turnovers, that's a different team, right? So I'm glad that your source felt that we're gonna have the game plan. I heard you mention that we might have some scheme things for him too, so that'll also be fun. Fans, thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and then as always, go to InsideTexas.com. That's where you can get all the best team news, practice reports, insider stuff, as well as good recruiting stuff. We just landed a recruit yesterday as well, so good stuff. And of course, always insightful game analysis. Ian Boyd, Paul Waddington, myself, we all kind of do breakdowns over there. So appreciate you guys. Eric, have an awesome day. Fans, hook 'em.